Hello everyone and welcome back to Astro Gamers. After a long time we're back. So sorry, but life happened.
Yeah, life is life. You know it. You know the drill. We had some events happening, hard to coordinate.
Yeah.
Time of two working adults with families and problems.
Yay. Today we have a very special episode because we've actually talked about this a long time ago that we want to do this, and finally this might be a two-parter because we might talk about it more in deep next time. We'll see, but we're gonna talk about video game engines finally. So excited.
Yeah, so without further ado, welcome to Afterwork Gamers. Grab a popcorn, grab a drink, make yourself comfortable. It's gonna be a wild ride. All right, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Well, you know, first questions is what is a video game engine? Well, let's just clear some stuff out. You were saying before that engine is not a just how did you put it?
Engine is not the rendering part. As a lot of people may think that, yeah, this game looks better because it's got better engine. But engine is not just about how the game looks and what visual effects it can run.
Yeah, basically it's a framework designed to facilitate the development and creation of video games. It's basically a toolbox with a bunch of tools in it.
In layman's terms, instead of writing everything in code, you can write the code once that will produce several features into the game without having to spend a lot of time coding everyone separately.
But obviously, like, it does a lot of rendering and FOV.
Yeah, rendering
LOD.
is for sure part of the engine.
Yeah, obviously. yeah. But like, you know, there's a lot of engines, and each engine is part of.
There are many parts to engine. You have the rendering engine, the physics engine, way to program the AI enemies, and run scripts, animations, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, you know, back in the day when there was no engines, everything was kind of programmed all together. So you didn't have basically a framework, or you didn't have you didn't have like an app where you could do everything. You had to write everything from scratch. But with coming of the, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to speak today. With development of gaming engine, that changed. All of a sudden, you didn't have to be programming on everything from just in language, but you had everything in one place. And so that was basically the purpose of it. It's just to streamline everything, streamline the game development process, so everyone can work at it at the same time, and you don't have to do a bunch of stuff at different places. Obviously, there is still pipelines. There's still where you have to connect all those things together. You cannot just everyone open the engine and just save everything at once, and you cannot expect for it to work.
Yeah, exactly. The way engines exist, or like one of the reasons why they're so popular, because they allow everyone, just programmers, to work on a game. If you have someone who's very good at creating, for example, 3D models, they can import them in the engine and work with them, set them up for the game. And they don't have to learn their way around low-level code to make the game more optimized. It allows a whole lot of people without being great programmers to create great games.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like the one thing that with development of engines came with is that you already have the features in the engine. For example, animation, or just as you like as you develop your own, we're gonna talk about it, but as you develop your own engine, you bring the features in, and then you can just grab the features and put them together into a game. That's basically how it works in engines, where you don't have to come in with a blank slate, but you grab the features what you like, modify it obviously if you need to, but you can focus better on the unique aspects of the game rather than focus on every little aspect of the game and spend a bunch of time. Basically, engines are saving a bunch of time on video games.
Indeed, like they allow to make bigger and better games without spending that much more budget and human time. One example of the tools Michal mentioned, like what it can do for you. For example, if you ever played games like World of Warcraft, you have a lot of quests, and I have a reason to believe they have some tool for creating quests like that. For example, the dialogues that give you the quest with all the text and buttons, you don't have to program it every time again. I believe they would have something that would feed the text into the engine and recreate the quest dialogue without having to spend any extra time outside of preparing the text.
Yeah, true. One big thing that came with engines are debugging tools. They're like a lifesaver for a lot of developers. Where yes, obviously you need testers, but with debugging tools you can find out better what's going on and fix it. For example, if a tester sends you a broken feature, you can use the debugging tools to find out what's happening. If there's a memory leak, if it's I don't know, too many polygons or
divide by 0.
Yeah, exactly.
And with the debugging tools, even testers usually use them because they try to find the bugs. So debugging tools can vary from the very low level ones that basically show you everything that's happening inside to the high level ones that just throw you, hey, I had this error, I had this issue, this is in the memory, this is something the AI is doing. And it can very much improve the way the games are released. I mean, not every company is using them as much and releasing broken games and stuff, but hey, some studios use it, like Nintendo and some other that release finished games. So
no, it's exactly right. It's kind of sad where the development of games is going to, but that's a topic for another day. And just like with engines coming into the gaming world, obviously this is not the only feature that they're used for. For example, the Unreal Engine is used in the film industry a lot because it's, especially the Unreal Engine 5, it's because of its
it has very good physical-based rendering, ray tracing features.
Exactly.
With the connection with the Quixel Megascan, which allows like very high-quality photo scans of real objects. Then, for example, we might have mentioned it somewhere before. The Mandalorian uses the virtual sets using Unreal Engine. Yeah,
exactly. Which is perfect because they can adjust the scenery that they're using
in real time.
In real time, I don't have to render anything, and
it's rendered as they go, and it allows many good things that are great for filmmakers. So I recommend, if you're interested, check how virtual sets in The Mandalorian are created. I believe there are several videos on YouTube. Check it out. It's very interesting.
Yeah, one also feature that came with the game engines is scripting. In Unreal Engine, it's called blueprints, and it's basically revolutionized how games are developed. If you don't know what blueprints are, it's basically little boxes in the engine where the code is already inside of the box. So you just connect the boxes together. This is very much simplified. It's much more complicated than I'm making it right now. But
it can very engine to engine.
Yeah, and it's very engines to engines. But basically you use the boxes, connect them together to engine to, I don't know, for example, the most like used example in this area is if character comes to a door, how it will open. Does it require to press a button? Does it open automatically? How fast is opened? Is there any animation that needs to play? And all of that you can do in the blueprint, which is amazing. Also, in Unreal Engine, you can also animate. I don't know if you can do that in other engines. I didn't study that enough.
Probably.
But like you have the animation blueprints and the blend space in Unreal Engine where you can actually animate your characters and adjust them to the button press you're using. So Unreal Engine is pretty amazing, I have to say.
Yeah, but as for the scripting, it does not have to be in form of boxes. It can be in good old scripts or code that you write a text. A lot of older games used it. Some even use it now because basically what script does, it executes. It's a shortcut to execute in some prepared code. For example, if you remember, if you played Counter-Strike 1.6 in the old days, you had a script in the console to add bots into the game. So that executed a code that would create the bots. And you just wrote something like add bot or whatever, and the game handled all the rest. So that can simplify things for even end users in some cases, like in the Counter-Strike.
Well, thank you for making me feel old.
I mean, we already are old, aren't we?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. But, since I think I don't know if it was Unreal Engine who came up with the blueprints and the scripting boxes, but like it's almost everywhere in all the engines I've seen. Like most of them are using.
It's a good feature.
Using some type of visual scripting. Yeah, that's what it's called. Visual scripting. Sorry, I forgot that word. I should know these things, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, you want to say something?
No. I'm just silently laughing.
No, like just to mention just a few engines. We are obviously gonna dive deep more into some of the engines, but just if you didn't know, one of the most known engines out there is obviously Unity, Unreal Engine. Recently, Godot. We're gonna talk about it a little bit. CryEngine. Everyone knows that. If you didn't play Crysis? Come on. Source Engine, obviously one of the most famous engines because of that engine. I love that Valve basically just let it out there. Fun
fact, Apex Legends runs on heavily modified Source Engine.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Frostbite, I think a lot of people hate on Frostbite. It's actually a pretty good engine,
but
just people don't use it properly. That's the problem.
I think we can also mention it. We can also go into that just because engine can do one thing well, it doesn't mean it can do all things well. And for example, Frostbite is created by DICE for Battlefield games, so it's awesome for creating first-person shooters. Yeah. But I wouldn't say it's as awesome for created something like mech action or some other games might not be as good.
Like FIFA. No, seriously, that's what I think they use for FIFA. Likely.
EA tried to push Frostbite into their other games because, let's face it, Frostbite has some amazing technology in it.
No, like for sure.
If you've seen, for example, how some things react, how the destruction there is done, it's pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, no, like Frostbite is a great engine. They just need to use it properly.
Yeah, and for proper genres and games.
Yeah, some of the older ones like RPG Maker or Game Maker Studio. I've seen a few games made in the Game Maker Studio. It's again open source engine, and it's not as versatile as other engines, but like
Its uses.
yeah.
Sometimes you want a simpler engine for a simpler game because Unreal would be overkill for a simple 2D platformer, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then obviously so many more. Like each studio basically has their own engine. We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah. So I guess we can move to it, right? To
Yeah, let's do
talk
it.
about custom engines, because you have the third-party or the licensable engines, which, as Michal mentioned, we have Unreal, Unity, the bigger ones, Godot gaining traction recently, which is open source. And you have a lot of those, and it can save you time because you don't have to develop anything. You can just take engine, start working in it. Awesome. You just have to sort out some licensing and stuff, payments, but anyone basically these days, with how accessible some of these engines are, can start their development. But you have option to develop your own. And even though we hear a lot of studios moving, for example, to Unreal these days, like your favorite CD Projekt Red, moving Witcher to Unreal 5, which, I mean, I understand why. I have recently played Senua Saga 2. And it's in Unreal 5 and it looks sick. Even on the Xbox Series X, it looks damn good.
Yeah.
So I understand why. But there are several custom engines still being used today, developed by the studios, like we mentioned, First Byte. But even separate studios have their own engines, not just like a publisher that have one studio developing engine. There can be studios doing their own engines. So let's talk about why it still have benefits, even though it can cost you more to develop your own engine, especially if you're a small studio.
Yeah.
And we'll use it in one game. So one of the biggest points I have here is full control. So if you create your own engine, you can do with it whatever you want. You can use it for however much games you want. You can do 10 games, 100, just one, whatever, and you can add and remove or adjust features as you wish. So you don't have to write to support, you don't have to, request anything. You just create it yourself. Yes, it can be more costly or take some time, but on the other hand, it's yours. You can do whatever, and that's very good thing to have.
With that full control also, as you said, the support is so much better because you have probably people who are focused on the developing of that engine beside of the people who are actually developing a game in the engine. So that easy customer support customer support is not really customer support, but the support of the developers who are developing the engine, it can be instantaneous. I mean, that depends on the studio. Sometimes a lot of studios have really, really problem with communications. And I think that's also one of the main problems why the games coming as they are. Communications are terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with that comes also, I think, a little bit of a problem that if you're modifying way too much, it like in game development, you might fix or invent something, but it might broke something totally on the opposite side. So that comes also with that.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, no, exactly. But also, I would also say with also the big engines we have, like especially Unreal Engine, where a lot of indie developers also are putting new features into the Unreal Engine. So it's highly customizable too. But again, like not every engine has that, but like there's few examples of that customizability of engines. But yeah, like custom engines obviously have a lot of advantages when it comes to big studios. I have to say, like, I don't know if customizable. I don't know if we will talk about it, but I don't know if it's a really good idea for a small studio to go get their own engine.
I think I will get to that in my later point. Yeah. So I guess for the next one, that is pretty big, and that can be even for small developers. you can create engine for a specific use case that the third-party engines can't cover or can't fully cover. For example, if you heard about the train game Mashinki, it's by a solo Czech developer. He started it as a free-time project. Now he's working full-time on it. And he said, well, I wanted to do some specific thing in the game, and the commercial engines couldn't do it. So he created his own. And this is exactly one of the big reasons why studios may create their own custom engines. Something that is not covered, and maybe even it wouldn't be viable for commercial engines to add that use case.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point to think of that. Yeah, no, that's but one thing just gonna kind of counterpoint you is the engines are still developing. Now we have, sorry to go to the Unreal Engine so much, but
it's a great example.
It's a great example. Unreal Engine 5 still developing. Now we are on version 5.4, and just a quick how to say it? Quick shout out to the Epic Studios. What they just for the 5.4 version, they released like complete animation pack for free for everyone to use with so many features, and I love it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so exactly. To each their own. For someone, it can be beneficial to have their own for very specific niche things, even sometimes. And yes, sometimes you don't need to. And that's exactly why it's good to know what you want to do and
I was about to
find a way how to achieve it.
I was about to say that, like, if you know what you want to do and you need specific things, then I can understand why, like, you would go for a customizable engine. If you want to do quote-unquote generic, and I'm putting really big quotes on the generic, not every game is generic, but if the commercial engines are enough for you, then, like, you don't have to be stressing about your own engine. But if you want to do something very specific like the Mashinki, then you're going to have to develop your own, which is not easy. I don't even know how. Like, I don't know how to code. Like, I know somewhat how to. I'm still learning, and I will be always learning how to do visual scripting. But like developing my own, like in programming language, like I every time I look like some code like C# or C++, like I'm getting dizzy because I don't know what's going on at all.
So you're not much of a reader then.
I am a reader, excuse you. I read books. I just don't read codes.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I can move to the next point, and that is no reliance on third parties, especially with long-term supported games. For example, Arma from Bohemia Interactive Studios. The Arma, it was designed to be a long-term supported product, and in one of the interviews, one of the creators said that they for some of their project use commercially available engines, like I believe Unreal or Unity or something like that. But they also have for their long-term products their own engines. I believe they not that long ago revealed their Infusion engine.
Yeah, I don't like it.
But the advantage of that is that if you have a game that has a long life cycle and you keep adding DLCs and content to it, commercial engines will or may possibly stop supporting their old products. So if you have a game in Unreal 3, I believe it might be very hard to find support from Epic Games to modify it or solve some issue, or even compile it for new platforms. Because they don't work on it anymore. They might not even have the people that work on it. I mean, I know that. I believe they will still have some people that work on it, but that can happen if something is old and obsolete, abandoned. Then regardless of how capable it is, it might be hard to find support. So just to give an example of like recent game, Helldivers. Do you know that they worked like it's an indie game, right? It's not a big. It's big, but it's not a big studio. It's like 4 people. I don't know idea how many people worked on it, but
they were working on it so long that the engine that they started developing on became redundant, and they couldn't work on it anymore. So they had to transfer all the features into a new, different engine, which is so much work.
Yeah.
It's so much work. And I haven't played that game. I mean, I tried it. Amazing. I never felt more patriotic in my life. And yeah, it's just. Can you imagine, like, just to work on a game for like 3 or 4 years, and then all of a sudden
having to redo a lot of the work again?
Yeah, and then redo it, like just because the support for the engine that you worked on just didn't get any support, so you have to transfer all to the newer engine. I don't know if they transfer to a different engine or to just newer version, because I don't know which engine they used. Like, I don't know, but they had to switch, and oh my gosh, like all the features, because you cannot just take, again, giving you examples from from Unreal, but like you cannot just take stuff from Unreal 3 and splat it on Unreal Engine 5 and expect it to work. That's just not how it works. You have to sadly redo them basically yet again.
I mean, you might not have to redo them again, but just partially. For example, you have idea about how the algorithm should work, or you can reuse the assets. But yeah, it's more work. I Googled, and they used modified version of Autodesk Stingray game engine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, more, I would say more on the niche side. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, that can happen. But some studios, for example, Epic has some tools to port games from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5 to gain the new features. For example, one of my favorite factory building games, Satisfactory, they in update 8 they moved from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5. They still don't have all the features, and they still don't use all the features of the 5, which might come at a later date. But some of the studios that develop the engines can provide some tools to port from the old to new, but it's not a given.
Did they like scratch the Unreal 4 engine already, or do they still use custom build for the Unreal Engine 5 version? Because I remember that's how it used to be. You have 2 versions, one for Unreal Engine 4, which had more like all the features, and then was special build for the Unreal Engine 5.
Honestly, I don't know.
We are informed.
No, these are also a lot of technical details that
that's true.
Sometimes not even might be available to public. These might be, I don't know.
True.
But yeah, it's definitely possible.
Very true.
There are a lot of things that can happen. Well, that brings me to my last point. Developing your own engine can be a great learning experience. I remember watching a YouTube video from some developers that make videos about how to develop some stuff for games. I don't remember his name, sorry, but I guess you can find a video in the topic if you look for it hard enough.
If we find him, we'll put his link into the description.
Yeah, and he said that developing your own engine can be good for you, even if it's only a learning experience, because the game engine don't have to be a final product. It can be just a tool to get the work done. So even if it has problems, you need to use workarounds. It can teach you developing it can teach you how to do some things, how it works inside. So when you work with a bigger commercial engine, you might have some idea about how things are implemented, and it can help you leverage the tools they have more, maybe even value them more, because you know how hard work it is to get things right. There are still some things that are very hard to get right, and yeah, this is a great way to get some appreciation, some insight.
Yeah, that's really big true. Like, more you learn about the background stuff, the more you can appreciate.
Yeah, that's
really true. I have no other comment on this.
I mean,
you sum it up so well. It's really good.
I think what I might add to it that it doesn't seem like I will do it anytime soon, because programming your own engine, I believe it requires a little bit more of programming knowledge, because you need to know how to code good enough. And so
I think more than good enough. Like, you need to know how to program. Like,
it's exactly.
Just, like
it's not easy.
It's definitely
I
not
will
easy.
tell you that.
Yeah, it's not easy. Yeah, programming in general, like, if you're not using some kind of how to say it, easier language, like C++ and C# is just, they are, like, when I say to other programmers, like, who don't program in that language, just to amuse myself, I usually ask programmers, like, do you know how to program in C++ or C#? They like, their eyes go big, like, no, I don't want to touch that ever in my life.
That's the thing. Like, I will maybe only touch this briefly, but some programming languages are more performant than the others in terms of they are harder to balance or like work in them. But if you do it right, you can save some performance.
True.
Because some other engines do things for you which take the performance. And for example, I can just remember that I believe Age of Empires, Ensemble Studios, who created it, may they rest in peace. The studio has been disbanded after developing Halo Wars. They wrote some parts, or maybe whole of it, I'm not sure, but I remember they did some parts in assembly, which is even harder and even more low level than C or C++, so that they could support even on the old hardware a lot of units.
Right.
So
I forgot about assembly.
Ensemble, not
Ensemble. Sorry.
So it can be a powerful tool, and it all depends on your talent, willingness to learn, and willingness to persist despite the difficulties.
No, I just have, like, just to say, I just have massive respect to all the programmers who actually learned the language. Let's move on.
Yeah. Right, so in this part, we would like to give some shout-outs to some interesting custom or even some commercial engines that we find interesting, because I guess if you're in gaming, you usually know about the big popular ones. Some of them we mentioned, like Unreal, Unity, maybe you
Frostbite.
Recently learned about Godot, Frostbite, whatever. But here are some that you might know about but don't remember them.
Yeah, true.
So I guess I can start with Snowdrop Engine by Ubisoft, their studio Massive Entertainment. They are the ones that developed The Division, which was the first game using the engine. It's interesting to me because it was developed to be not just multi-platform, so they can run all the consoles, PC and stuff, but it's very scalable. You can develop scalable in terms of you can develop smaller games and they run great, or even bigger games like Division and they run great. And it's been done to be modular. So it's a custom engine, but not built to support a single game, but support a variety of games so that they can plug in, plug out modules they need, and they can reuse for some older projects. So I believe that might be what they used when they developed The Division. They had some other games, and when they did Division 2, they just took the newer version of some, I would say, rendering and stuff, and plugged in the tools they had to create the Division content in it. So that's a very smart way, I would say, to do the stuff. And you could have seen it in games like, of course, The Division, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, running perfectly on the Switch, on the potato. Starlink Battle for Atlas, which has like flying in space, seamlessly transitioning to planet surface with more details, running on PC, consoles, including Switch. So I would say that's quite an achievement. Yeah. And most recently, Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora.
I would say even more recently, X-Defiant. I don't know if you heard about that, but I can't believe you're mentioning Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora.
No, I'm mentioning
such a massive fail.
I'm mentioning it because of the lighting features and ray tracing they added to the engine. So,
that's true.
I'm not mentioning it for the game itself, but for the features the engine had for it. So it's it went a long way, and I believe Snowdrop might be one to stay because I mean we've seen some cool stuff in it, and I mean I hope I will see it more because I like what they can do with it.
Yeah, I will also like mention just about the XDefiant, like just very briefly out of the topic, is the better Call of Duty because the guy, the game director who worked on the previous Call of Duties, like the Modern Warfare series, is working on this game. I mean, it's a Ubisoft game, so they screwed up from the beginning. Like, how come a first-person shooter doesn't have team deathmatch or deathmatch? That's just ridiculous. On launch, that's just silly and ridiculous to me. That shouldn't be the case. But it's actually pretty good. If you like the feel of the older Call of Duties, then I would must recommend this. Yeah, I mean, you gotta get you're gonna get bored because they need to get the scope of the game much bigger, and like the grinding is just insane. Like grinding in the newest Call of Duties are also insanely long, but in XDefiant, for the amount of the stuff you have in the game, this is way too long. Fix it, Ubisoft.
Yeah, maybe we will, if it was successful enough, maybe we will see XDefiant 2, which will have bigger budget. We don't know.
We'll see.
We can only guess, but yeah, I hope they use Snowdrop for that. Probably they will, but like Ubisoft is just barely holding on at the moment. I mean, I mentioned it already in a few episodes. I mentioned it. Ubisoft is trying to get bought by some other studios because let's be honest, their games haven't made that much money as they used to, and especially with the recent controversy of Assassin's Creed Shadows. Yeah. And there are some fails and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, remember how Michal mentioned that Unreal can be used for filmmaking and stuff, so game engines expanding into other areas. Well, it seems like we've come full circle because there's a very popular, very big engine that was in the past used by hundreds of studios, created or powered hundreds of games. And it started as a design or simulation engine, and games were originally more of a side quest. The engine was developed by Criterion. You might have heard of them because it was used to power a game developed by Criterion Games called Burnout. Yes, the amazing Burnout series. I still miss it to this day.
I gave you the copy back already, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
After like 2 years.
Yeah, Burnout Paradise is one of my go-to games. I replay it once in a while because it's just so good. Anyway, the engine powering even Burnout Paradise, it's one of the newest games on Renderware. That's the engine, Renderware. And it started development under Canon, the company that these days makes stuff like cameras, or most famous for their cameras.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they were at the beginning of the Renderware, and I believe the biggest push or how Renderware became popular was at the 6th generation, because Microsoft had their Xbox with DirectX, making things easier for developers. And developing for PS2 was hard because the hardware was more specific, harder to develop for. It was not as powerful as Xbox or GameCube. And some devs dubbed Renderware the Sony's DirectX answer, because the Renderware could have run on multiple platforms, but it made development for PS2 specifically easier than the default tools, as far as I was able to find. So yeah, it was used by a lot of studios, and the end of it was not necessarily because it would be not as good feature-wise, because they had some plans to develop new features, but EA acquired Criterion and the Renderware, and they slowly, actually pretty fast, stopped the licensing. They only honored all deals, provided support, but slowly it was not being licensed anymore to new developers, and new games weren't developed in it, and so it died. But it powered very important games and part of gaming history. So it was, you could have find it mostly on the 6th generation, like PS2, OG Xbox, GameCube, but also on the 7th, on the PS3, Xbox 360, maybe Wii, I'm not sure. But games like the Burnout series, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 was on renderware, and the GTA trilogy, so the GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, all ran on renderware, or Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, I remember that game.
Yeah, amazing game. Fun,
really?
A lot of fun.
When I first time played it, I didn't like it at all.
Oh, I was
so
all
bad.
into racing, and we played it with my brother that he has the aiming on a mouse, and I was driving the car with a keyboard. So we had like a team up with my brother for that.
I didn't like it at all. I thought it was just another, the Starsky and Hutch is a TV show.
Yeah.
And it was just I remember it came like with a cereal box or something.
Yeah, it was later distributed, at least here in Czech Republic, with a cereal.
Yeah, I think it was Nesquik or something, and
whatever.
But yeah, and I remember like I got it with the cereal, and like I just like put it in my computer, turn it on, installed it, and like after like I don't know half an hour, I turned it off because I was like, this is trash.
Well, I borrowed it.
It was such a hard thing to control. Like they didn't develop like. Graphics even for that time were ugly. The controls were absolutely abhorrent.
I didn't have such problems, so I don't know.
we're all different people.
Yeah, and to each of their own. Someone likes different games. I had a blast with this one. Fun fact, it's one of the very few games on the OG Xbox that supports both the steering wheel and light gun simultaneously. So you could just ride with the wheel and have a light gun and shoot at the screen.
Really?
To each their own.
Oh my god, it's
just
so stupid.
just a fun fact. So yeah, but renderware powered a lot of great and important games that defined gaming. So I think it deserves a shout out. There are a couple of videos about it on YouTube. Check them out.
R.I.P. Well, another engine that I would like to mention is the Decima engine. It was developed by Guerrilla Games, the people behind Horizon series, Horizon Zero Dawn and Killzone 2. That's actually what the engine was developed for, the game Killzone Shadowfall. And to my surprise, I found out that Until Dawn ran on Decima engine, which is very interesting. I would not think of that because to those who don't know, Until Dawn is a horror, basically interactive film. It's not really a game, in my opinion. It takes. I feel like the developers played way too much of what's the guys who develop Detroit Become Human.
Yes.
What's the studio name? God dang it.
Yes. But I know it.
Look it up. I'll keep talking. So yeah, I would just not like thought of that kind of a game would because it's
Quantic Dream.
Quantic Dream. That's right. Quantic Dream. They played a lot of Quantic Dream because that's basically all their games are interactive movies, and just one thing I would mention about it. It didn't, like a funny fun fact. When they were developing it, they didn't have a name for that engine, but when they they started cooperating with Kojima Productions on Death Stranding game. They had to give it a name for marketing purposes, which is pretty funny. But that's another game that runs on Decima engine. You may think whatever you want about this game. I don't care, but it runs. One really interesting feature about a Decima engine runs pretty well. I love the rendering, how they do it. Everything looks really good. Lighting looks really nice, and even on PS4 on Horizon Zero Dawn, everything looks really good. Excuse me. And one like that feature that was really very marketed, and when they worked with Kojima Productions, so they had to market the engine. Their LOD, or level of detail, how they rendering the world, basically how it works. You have a cone where you see, right? You have, and behind you, everything you can't see deloads, right? You still have, I assume that you still have some kind of LOD in the way you're looking, because that would kill your your graphics card, your processor, if you would load all the details to the point where you like the furthest point you can see, but everything else that you cannot see deloads. So every time you turn, it basically loads everything into the view. And yes, a lot of games do that, but I think the Decima did it this way.
They're very well. Famous for their they're very famous for this, because they did a very nice behind the scenes video about how this feature works. And some games have some of these systems implemented in some one or the other way. But it's a nice performance optimization. That's exactly for what it is. And I think even a PS4 can run pretty cool looking graphics. What can I say?
No.
I would say also for those, I'm not sure it's part of the. Definitely was implemented on the engine level. I'm not sure some other games used it, but Horizon used in PS4 Pro checkerboard rendering, which is a technique that is something similar to upscaling and stuff. So basically, it renders a checkerboard so that you can have a higher output resolution. So it's. I would not go into details about this, but checkerboard rendering was one of the important things for the PS4 Pro era, because it wasn't as powerful as the Xbox One X, and if you wanted 4K, you had to had some shortcuts.
But Decima engine. It's really. I never worked in it. I don't know if it's like available to everyone, but like. I think for especially developers, especially for the programmers who deal with performance, this must have been nice, where you can basically deload. Why am I saying deload? That's such a weird word. Unload. unload most of the world, and then just slowly load it in, or just hide it. I exactly don't know how it works. That's just my assumption.
Check out the behind the scenes videos; they're pretty cool.
But it's a really amazing technique. Like the other engines use some modification. Usually, LOD works in a way where further you see the less detail you have.
Or Unreal 5 has the nanite feature. That dynamically reduces the amount of triangles in the geometry.
That's the big point, because usually in other engines, you don't use triangles, you use rectangles, and Unreal Engine came with triangles, because it's a lot less of space. It's less of space to render. So that's why nanite works so well.
So you talked about Horizon Zero Dawn, and one thing I guess we can all agree that Horizon Zero Dawn lacks in. Don't get me wrong, it's a pretty cool game. I enjoyed it a lot. But one thing it's lacking at are facial animations. They sometimes feel a little stiff. I mean, I understand it's a game of huge scale, but that's a way to improve it. But it's also one of the reasons, I mean, not because of Decima, but why Remedy Entertainment developed their Northlight engine. At the time, they were lacking some features in other available engines that they needed for storytelling games, and more specifically, they wanted more detailed faces and facial animations and motion capture animation support for the faces and for the characters. So they developed their Northlight engine with this in mind. So the first game that had it was Quantum Break. I would say it's kind of underrated gem. It's
I liked it, honestly.
yeah,
Like, it was a good...
especially it didn't have that much traction, but when I played it, I was like, damn, that's actually fun.
I have to say, what like kind of took me like ruined the... I'm forgetting words. The immersion were the scenes with the real actors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of put me off.
Like the TV show parts of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's what put me off a little bit. But the rest of the game was pretty good. Like stopping time and
yeah,
like,
the ability.
The story was great. Characters were amazing.
Yeah, the animations and the look of the game still holds up.
Yeah.
And that's, I would say, they succeeded because they used the engine more. If you remember, Control, I believe it was first game they developed ray tracing for the Northlight engine, and yeah, they still have cool animation features, and it's engine designed for story-driven games, so they have a lot of power in this area. The newest game, Alan Wake 2. Pretty big hit, I would say, and pretty solid graphics.
Yeah,
you have advanced ray tracing features, you have advanced lighting features, and yeah, I would say it's quite a powerhouse these days. So
yeah,
and yes, all motion capture as far as I know, or most of it.
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the ray tracing, because you might be thinking, "Hey, Michal Matos, why are you not talking about ray tracing? The big word in the video game world and in the engines." I just want to say, lighting is like this such a small part of the video game development that in engines, yes, it's a great feature. Every game looks much better with good lighting, but I think it's such a small part of game engines and game development that I think ray tracing is a bit overrated. Like, it looks great. Let me get that straight. It looks great, but with the prices of graphics card these days and all electronics in the world, I know I can have it. I have flipping 1060 GTX on my computer, and
you can still do software ray tracing in some games.
That's true. But still, it's still a big performance issue.
Of course.
There can be so much wrong with it if you not do it right. So that's why we're not talking about it's basically a buzzword these days. Ray tracing. Does this game have a ray tracing? Like, to me, I don't really care. As if the game runs properly, if the game has a good story, or if the gameplay is fun, if the gameplay loop is fun, I don't care about as much as the graphics as much about the gameplay and the story. So that's for me. Like, I understand it's a big buzzword because it's basically in every new game, but the studios are talking about it. Like, every big studio, when you have a talk with the devs, like, a big part of these talks is always about ray tracing and rendering, and I'm like, okay, can we talk about the gameplay a little bit more? Like,
it's fun that you mention it. I think ray tracing is a perfect point in the talk about game engines. And yeah, I agree, it's a buzzword, but it shouldn't be, because ray tracing, most of all, is a tool.
Yeah.
It's, when you want to create games that are looking good, I recently replayed Remember Me, first game by Don't Note Entertainment that made Life is Strange. So if you're a super fan of Life is Strange and Don't Note, you need to get this one to your collection. Anyway, it looks very good even on the old PS3. It's Unreal Engine 3 game, I believe. And some of the reflections almost look as good as ray tracing, but that's because they have developed, or in the past, some features were developed to fake a lot of the stuff, and over time, the rasterization technique for the rendering, that's still used a lot, or as a fallback if you don't support ray tracing on your hardware, it got really good. It can have really good features. And yes, it's not perfect. And that's the thing. It sometimes requires more work to have world looking good, because you have
Yeah.
to do the probe lighting, or the artist has to adjust manually little pieces here and there to have the lighting looks good and it limits the dynamics. Now with ray tracing, a lot of studios are moving to it because it makes things so much easier, because you just set up the lighting or the reflections and stuff. By the way, fun fact, my favorite use of ray tracing is global illumination, because it can look, or it's one of the things of ray tracing that really adds a lot of value. And
True.
it allows the artists to focus on something else, because they can have basically perfect lighting or whatever that ray tracing allows.
True.
And I wanted to say one more point about ray tracing, and I forgot what it was. Yeah. It has its features and those. Oh yeah, I remember. But as Michal mentioned, expensive hardware and its performance / power hogger.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen some comparisons side by side in the same game, ray tracing on and off. I think I've seen with Cyberpunk, and yeah, ray tracing looks a little better, but not that significantly better that it would be worth losing 75% of your performance.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially on lower hardware. If you have like laptop, you don't have to turn on ray tracing to still have a great experience with a great looking game.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because first, like, if you have a good lighting artist, he can make the world look really good.
Indeed.
And you don't have to lose tons of performance because of it. Because yes, global illumination is performance heavy, and hardware heavy too.
Yeah, that
it's the
goes
sad
with it.
truth. I think we're not there yet where like we can have it everywhere.
But the hardware is improving fast.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised in like 10, 15 years, ray tracing would be the de facto standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the evolution is going, and yeah, as I mentioned, it's a pretty powerful tool that can make things look really good without, or like it can save you some work even. So and of course it makes games look more realistic, because if you can simulate how light moves, which ray tracing basically works, how single rays work, then you're golden.
Yeah, let's move to now different part of this little topic. We're gonna mention a few engines that we think are important and talk about it a little bit. So let's start with the Unreal Engine.
I don't think we need to talk that much about it now, right?
No, but we just mentioned, global illumination. So the lumen features and the nanite features of Unreal Engine. Obviously, big words. It's amazing. I don't think we have seen yet nanite in the game yet, right?
No. The games are using it. For example, Satisfactory is using nanite for the rock formation. Not for the whole world, but for the rock formations.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. Like for the whole world. I don't know. Maybe Senua's no, it's not Senua's Sacrifice. It is
Hellblade 2.
Hellblade 2.
I don't know. I call it Hellblade 2. It's Senua Saga 2, Hellblade something. Never mind.
Whatever. Hellblade 2. I don't know. It was developed in Unreal Engine 5, but I don't know if it's using the nanite features, because it's still develop. Like at that point, these features are still in development, and Unreal Engine was such a big improvement when it comes to the for into gaming industry, because it uses the nanite, it uses the
Hellblade 2 uses nanite.
Yeah, in the whole world.
It's not.
You don't know into how.
It's not sure, but it's mentioned it's one of the best examples of uses of Unreal Engine 5. So I would imagine a whole lot of geometry uses.
Yeah, I think because Unreal Engine is so big and so versatile, and you have a lot of tutorials, a lot of tutorials on how to use Unreal Engine 5 and the other engines. So like it's basically anyone can, if you have the mind for it and if you have the understanding of how to develop a game, you can learn it pretty easily. But there comes a problem with that all the game might look the same
if you don't tweak the settings, because if you use the defaults, well, yeah.
Well, I know, like, because of the global illumination and the nanite, the lighting looks so good that, did I say lightning or lighting? Lighting. If the lighting looks so good.
Lightning can also look good.
Yeah, the lighting looks mostly the same if you don't stylize it. So that's going to become the problem when a lot of games looks kind of the same in Unreal Engine 5. But then there's the creative freedom of stylizing your game. For example, if I'll hand it to Nintendo, their hardware is not that powerful. They cannot make hyper realistic video games, so they get around it by stylizing the game. So they can maybe load less polygons than Unreal Engine 5 on PC, but they can do, because of that, they can do very good lighting, and then it looks really good. So that's one of the downside of the Unreal Engine. Like it may look like a lot of stuff may look the same. Not
very similar.
Very similar, not the same. Yeah.
There are a lot of games in which you can tell they are done in Unreal just by the way they look. Because even though the assets are different, if you don't mess around with the renderer config, it might look the same.
Yeah.
But I would like to say a point about Lumen, the tool for lighting. It's actually software, or includes software ray tracing for light, so it can run even on non-hardware ray tracing accelerators like the RTX cards. But I believe there should be, or I'm not sure it is, or it will be released in the future, hardware fallback. So, maybe that will help or like hardware version, hardware accelerated Lumen.
Sure.
Maybe. Might bring a disruption to the market. We'll see.
We'll see. But just to mention the versatility of Unreal Engine, there's so many. You can make so many games with it. Yes, obviously, if
years of experience of the developers.
Yeah, exactly. It's made by developers for developers, and they're obviously Epic, like any other big company, is a bit shady. But beside that, Unreal, it seems that they put so much love into Unreal Engine 5 and what they learned from previous iterations, and Unreal Engine, the user experience is so much good. When you look at Unreal Engine 4, I'm just talking about the interface now. When you look at the Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5, Unreal Engine 5 looks so much professional, so much more professional than Unreal Engine 4, and you feel like so much better developing in Unreal Engine 4. Sorry, 5.
But with a lot of the features, even Unreal has its own set of problems. They might, for example, hashtag stutter problem that Unreal has, which hopefully will be fixed in future versions. Unreal Engine 5 specifically. But it's the more features you have, the more bugs you add. That's how it works. That's nature. It's the law.
Yeah. Also, I would like to mention, because it's so big and because it has a large community, there's a lot of features that you can download for free, or you can buy a lot of plugins and assets for free. As Epic Studios said they do, they release every 2 or 3 weeks they release a free game on their platform. They do that with Unreal Engine's assets too. When they either it's a plugin, it's animation stuff, or assets for your game, you can use for free. And my library is so big at the moment, which I find really good, because other people are developing and those things in Unreal Engine, and they said, here, have it, use it if you need to. It might help you to
but it has a downside, a dark side, that it increases the risk of so-called asset flips. which are basically games that just use assets from the asset store.
A day before.
There are a lot of games like that, and sometimes they are created just so they create a market for the Steam cards and stuff. But you know what? Let's move to another point. We could talk about Unreal all day. It has a lot. The other important one, or more important in the past. Now it's we of course talking about Unity and how they not so long ago kind of tanked their reputation due to they announced controversial steps of charging developers for download of each game, even if it was free or very cheap. And I'm not actually remembering how exactly it was solved out. But yeah, Unity also pretty capable engine. It was more than Unreal used for 2D games, or a smaller project also used for mobile games. Yeah. For example, not just mobile, but on PC and mobile game that uses Unity is Hearthstone.
Oh, really?
Hearthstone actually uses Unity. Pokemon Go uses Unity.
Well, that makes sense, but Hearthstone is in Unity?
Because
I didn't know
Hearthstone started it as a smaller project. Blizzard at the time wanted to test what could a small team achieve. And
interesting.
Yeah, you can imagine now the team is much bigger than the few people at the beginning.
Interesting. I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah, but Unity is still a capable engine and has a lot of features that are good for development. I believe they also have some simplified VR games workflow, as far as I remember. Not exactly sure right now, but they have a lot of tools and support a whole lot of platforms. Yeah. But yes, they had this controversy, which kind of it's like shooting yourself in your own foot.
Yeah.
If someone from Unity is listening, please, we understand that if you're under pressure from the greedy stockholders or you have financial problems, you need to solve it, but your communication about it should be better. If you would communicate it with the developers, maybe they could find a solution that would make both parties happy. You know, it's better than just showing a big middle finger to everyone who supports you and then are being surprised that they are leaving you for... A lot of the times, Godot, it's open source engine, so it's free, and especially thanks to Unity controversy, it's getting a lot of traction and a lot of funding.
Yeah, the reason why, because Unity until now was a free engine, mostly.
Well, let's talk about the licensing a bit.
Yeah,
Unity, Unreal. And a lot of other have licensing model that you can download and use it for free, but you pay some royalties for the game that you release.
I think you pay until your game makes, at least that's how it is in Unreal. You pay until
after
your game
you earn
made
some
certain amount of money. I think it's 100,000 euros in Czech in Unreal. I don't know how much this.
Yeah, so basically you can download and use it for free. I think you have to pay if you want some continuous support or something. Depends, varies on the model. But a lot of engines you can download and use. But after you release the game, after you start earning money, you give them back in royalties.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But usually it is from the earnings, not from every download of the game.
Yeah, I have to say, Unity was used by a lot of indie developers.
Yes.
Yeah, because again, like Unreal Engine, the scope is so much big, and
it's like using sword for spreading butter on your bread.
Exactly.
It's like it can be overkill for a lot of projects.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why a lot of developers are like pissed off at the moment for Unity, because the people there are very greedy, and that's why they're going to Godot, because Godot is again open source and it has a lot of features for an engine that just came out like just a few years ago.
No, actually, Godot is much older than we believe. Yeah, I can tell you the date if I found it. But initial release 2014, 10 years ago. It's not that new.
So
why we are only talking about it now is because it started as more of a simple engine and slowly developed features. And now we're hearing about it because it became more capable at the right time, basically.
Yeah.
Because as we mentioned, open source means you can use it completely for free because you have access to the source code. You can modify it, and the license is very open.
Sure.
You have the Godot Foundation that has the funding and the development. So, for example, if I would be making game in Godot, I think I would just, if I earn a lot of money, I would just send something back to the Godot Foundation so that the engine can grow. And I think that's kind of the idea of it. And they actually created or are working on a really cool things how to secure more funding and give more tools to the developers to have like a commercial part.
That's cool.
That they will provide the servers and cloud architecture for some cloud features like, I don't know, running online games and stuff. And you will pay for that, and they will use some part of the earnings to fund the development of Godot.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing and cool, and I'm always a sucker for for these cool community open source projects that make it big. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's in the end of the day, like you need to know when you're thinking about making a game, you need to know what are you doing and what tools do you need, because not every engine is the same, and not every engine can provide you exactly the thing that you need. So you might want to go for the commercial engines, or like Godot, the open source engines, which I bet there's more like that. Or you need to, because there is no features that you need, so you need to develop your own engine. And just go for it. Just experiment. Try what's the best for you.
Yeah, do some analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if you really want to just mess around and try it for your learning experience, or if you find that you like, we mentioned a lot of those are available for free to mess around.
Yeah.
And you only pay after release, so don't hesitate. Just find one that ticks your boxes, that looks interesting to you, and play around with it.
Yeah,
I remember I saw a video on the internet that someone was messing with Unreal, that he connected the depth buffer to a different effect. So instead of making like the depth of field effect, he was making it more pixelated, for example.
Oh, interesting.
So you can do stuff like that to just mess around, have some fun. I can really recommend it. It's a really great way to learn.
True.
Right, so I think we'll leave you here for today, for this episode.
Yeah.
We hope you learned something cool about engines.
Yeah, I hope we inspired you. If you're thinking of maybe going to game development, or you're thinking of a game that you would like to make, but there's no tools to inspire you to just do some analysis to look up what do you need, and we hope that you liked this chat with us.
Yeah, we really would like to know what are your favorite engines, for example, you use, or some of your hidden secrets, or stuff that you learned during development. We would like to know what engines do you like to use, and so on and so forth. So be sure to write it in the comments.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, please do give us also a follow on our social media, on Facebook and Instagram. Also on our podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and others.
And YouTube.
And YouTube, please do subscribe, follow us, rate us. Anything that would help to maybe spread this message around the world. And if you like us, please just have a nice conversation with us.
Yeah, and I have a request. If you are watching us on YouTube, if you like this video, give it a like and share it with your friends and family. If you dislike it, give it a like and share it with your enemies. Yeah, and you can also click the subscribe button and click the bell icon so that you don't miss any notifications.
Yes. And don't forget, you can always game after work.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.